talking about our newest evolution of Aiden, which is Aiden Research Mode. For those of you who are unaware, Aiden is the AI property advisor that is included in every Real report. I'm going to give you a couple of slides quickly just to sort of freshen you up on sort of the evolution of Aiden, how we got to research mode specifically, and hopefully also for those of you who may be new to the platform, let you know sort of some of the other features that Aiden already has available. I'll then show you how to turn on AI research mode in the product. Very, very simple to do. We'll discuss some of the different functionality, different use cases for it. And then I will have you all on your way. Again, we'll make this a short and sweet one today, but please feel free if you do have questions, just drop them in the chat. I will either pick them up as we go or try and get to as many as I can at the end. So let's dive in. Just a little bit on our team. Again, for those of you, we're always constantly onboarding new users and clients. So this is the core team that you see on screen. We all have a wealth of experience across the industry. We've all been practitioners for many, many years, building brokerages ourselves, working at some of the best brands on the brokerage and MLS and prop tech, real estate technology out there. We're also backed by some great investors in the space, including some of the MLSs that you may see there on screen, and a bunch of vertical specific venture capitalists who are also associated with the real estate space as well. I say all of this just because I think it's really important. There's a lot of technology being built for real estate. It's a juicy peach. That said, there are many, many tech companies out there who are building solutions for problems that don't exist. And that's oftentimes because they don't have domain expertise. Our entire team comes from the real estate space first. And so we're building solutions for problems that we've experienced firsthand. Now, again, for those of you who are not acquainted with Real Reports, just getting onboarding into the product, 30,000 foot view, and I'll keep this brief, but you can think about Real Reports as an AI supercharged Carfax for homes. What that really means is that we have, over painstaking hours, months, and years, assembled the most comprehensive property information corpus that exists for every home in the United States. This is data coming from over, at this point, 70 different data providers. This is outside of MLS data. It's really there to answer any other question about the property parcel and surrounding area that you would not find in the MLS or the search portals. It is available for every home in the United States. So when you use Real Reports, you're not capped, you're not geo-fenced or anything like that. It is certainly a practical way to incorporate AI. I'm sure many of you are bored to tears now of hearing about the AI future that is, coming our way, because there's just a lot of noise. There's a lot of people and a lot of teams that are building AI, and it's really just fluff. I think we've very much cracked the code on practical use cases for that technology in our stack that don't require you to have any kind of domain expertise or technical aptitude with regards to AI. So we'll talk through some of those as I sort of give you the history on Aiden. And something always important to note, Real Reports is exclusively available through real estate agents. This is not something that consumers, your buyers, sellers, owners can go get off the shelf themselves. They have to go through you. And again, that comes from our own expertise in the space. It's also in light of everything that happened with, the commissions lawsuits and everything like that. We as practitioners are all thinking about how can we clarify and communicate our value to the people that we're working with, the clients that we're working with. If consumers could go get Real Reports themselves, that totally breaks down that value chain. So if a client of yours or a lead who's interested in working with you wants to get a Real Report or view a Real Report, they have to go through you. Now, when we talk about Real Reports data, just to give you a little, peek into what it could look like, for those of you who are unfamiliar, this is sort of what we're talking about. And this is a non-exhaustive list. At this point, I can't really fit everything on the screen that's included in Real Reports. But as you can see, again, this slide's actually out of sync. It should be 70 different data providers that it's coming from. You can see a lot of the logos down below. So this is coming from first party, third party, private data, government data, public records. It's a large blend. And that's not only so we can capture this really wide breadth of data, all these different categories that you see on screen, some of which may be things that you use every single time, things like permit history or tax records, things like that. Some of these could be, incredibly niche, like where is the nearest EV charging station? We want to be able to answer any question that you or your client may have about a home. Doesn't matter how big or how small. even those small ones, those could actually be the thing that really click with somebody and show them that, oh, wow, the agent that I'm working with, they can go above and beyond. They know this really, really niche piece of information, and that's really valuable to me. So we're always trying to capture the widest breadth of data that we can, but very importantly, we're also trying to go very deep with the fidelity of the data. I'm sure all of you have had a lot of experience with real estate data in your time as practitioners. We all know that data can be quite finicky. That's probably the most diplomatic way that I can frame it, but data's kind of a mess in the real estate space. It's fragmented. Sometimes it's prohibitively expensive to even access. There are a lot of incumbents that are very protectionist about the data. It's not refreshed that often. So you never want to be reliant on one data source for your information. There is no single source of truth, period. That's why with almost everything in the Real Report, we are backing up that data with redundant sources so that you may look at, one piece of information, and that may actually be informed by 10 different data sources on our side. We're always scanning for, which sources are most trusted, which ones are updating their data most frequently. Is there consensus, between all these different data sources? We want to give you the most accurate, reliable property information that you can get your hands on, and you will get that through Real Reports. We're not going to touch on all of this today, but this is really meant to be a full life cycle product for both the buy side, both the sell side, upfront while you're trying to generate new business, and then after the fact when you're trying to engage, and keep in touch with past clients. We have all of these different inflection points where the product can really be leveraged. We want it to feel like sort of a companion side by side with you at any moment in this sort of chronology of your business in your day-to-day. Now, specifically, we're going to be talking about Aiden today in Aiden research mode. But I did want to provide you all with just a quick preface on, how we got to research mode and what sort of the feature capacity and capabilities are of Aiden today. So again, for those of you unfamiliar, Aiden is our AI property advisor that's built into Real Reports. What Aiden has the ability to do at its sort of base level is answer property questions about the data in the report. That's where we started. It's one thing to bring together this immense corpus of information and data, but I'm sure if I put 1 million data points in front of every single one of you, including myself, your eyes would glaze over. Because listen, the job of a real estate agent practitioner in our space, you're doing a lot. You're running your own business, and you're doing that for, potentially dozens and dozens of clients, if not more. There's a lot to do on any given day, and just having a data dump is not enough. Data needs to be actionable. Data needs to be accessible. So we did all of the work to put all of this data in one place, but the beauty of what Aiden provides is you can query that information. And that could be for something very surgical, asking, are there any open permits on the property, or can I build an ADU in the backyard? It could also be a bit more sophisticated kind of questions, things like, if I wanted to rent this property out in the winter on Airbnb, what could I expect from my occupancy rate and rental rates during the week? So Aiden has the ability to look at all of the data in the report, query that, collate that, organize it, analyze it, and provide you with whatever answer you need based on that data in a couple of seconds. Really just helps speed up the process. And you can use this on the go. Real Reports is great, desktop, tablet, mobile. So if you got a client asking you something when you're on the way to the open house, pull up Real Reports, get that one for 123 Main Street, ask Aiden whatever questions you need. You've got your answers on the spot. It is important to note that Aiden does not hallucinate. I'm sure many of you who have used other AI products, things like ChatGPT or Perplexity or whatever it may be, many of the large LLMs out there on market, they are prone to hallucination. You can really think about Aiden as the mouthpiece for the brain that we've assembled with all of the data in the report. It's just there to query that information and collate that in a way that's actionable and meaningful for you. But if it doesn't know the answer to a question, it'll let you know. There's actually, I think a salient example is that permits. I'll just refer back to that because we were talking about that already. There may be a case where you're looking at a Real Report for a property that's just way out in the boonies and the sticks. And, those permit records likely haven't been digitized. And, for Real Reports we pull from data, through digital records from all these different providers. So there may be an instance where we just don't have that permit history. Aiden's not going to tell you that there are no permits on the property because that may in fact be incorrect. There may be permit records that are, in a moldy file cabinet in somebody's basement somewhere. They just haven't been digitally recorded. So Aiden has enough nuance to be able to understand that, and let you know that, like, hey, based on the data that I have, I'm not seeing any permits, but you should go check these resources to make sure that is correct. Aiden's always trying to guide you to that next step, especially in cases where it may not have access to that information. This should go without saying, and I hope that any of you who are using any AI tools out there, especially in the real estate space, are always making sure to be thinking about this. But table stakes at this point, Aiden is fair housing trained. So of course, if you ask any questions or a client has questions that are out of bounds, Aiden knows what those lines are, and it'll make it very clear, and it really won't answer beyond the question at that point. So we started with Aiden, sort of this, MVP, able to answer property questions about the data in the report. Then we moved over to photo analysis. So what Aiden was able to do is, I'm just seeing one question come in here from Mary. When we'll be able to correct information. Oh, hey there, Mary. One of our users from Dorify MLS in the Triangle area. So actually, Mary, I'm very happy that you brought up that question. Sorry to interject here, everybody, but we will be rolling out the ability to correct and edit information by latest November. So you will have that capability because, again, we all understand at the end of the day that data can be fickle in this space. And sometimes there's just, we could have 7 providers and they might all just not be correct and not up to date. So we want to give you some of the ability to do that, edit in line, and sort of add your own level of personalization on top of the report. So Mary, good question. We will be adding that in soon. All right, sorry everybody, but I think that's a worthwhile question for everybody to hear because we get that one a lot, admittedly. Going back to Aiden here, so the second step that we took is we added photo analysis. So you can add your own property photos into Real Reports. We also will pull in listing photos for active listings from your MLS or your IDX feed. What Aiden has the ability to do is multimodal, so it can actually ingest and look at different types of media. So we thought that would be great. Put in any property photos you want, whether that's listing photos, potential mocks, walkthroughs. It could be, different mock-ups of renovation potential, things like that. You can add whatever photos you want. Aiden can look at those photos, give you listing descriptions based off of them, look at them, assess, the quality and condition of certain things. So we added that in next. And very important to note, when you add anything and use it as part of a query with Aiden, whether that's photos, documents, or your own information, Aiden is not trained on that data. It does not share that data with our network. We don't save any of that information in our own database. Aiden is just a private instance for you in that report. So you never have to fear if you're uploading information on your side that will be exposed to anybody else. So for instance, if CC got a Real Report for 2700 Moraga Street, uploaded property photos, was asking Aiden about those questions or about those photos, and then I pulled the Real Report for the same property, first of all, I wouldn't see CC's photos and I wouldn't have access, nor would my Aiden know about the photos that she had uploaded in her report. I think that's just a clear line in the sand that everybody should understand about the product. So we added in photo analysis. We then added voice mode. Accessibility is important to us at Real Reports, so we want you to be able to interact with Aiden, not just via text. So you can also now talk to Aiden using the microphone. You can also talk to Aiden in whatever language you like. I think it's fluent in, at this point, probably 50 different languages, and it'll reply to you in that language. You just have to say, like, hey, I've got Spanish-speaking clients, like, let's talk in Spanish. So we added that in next. Just great, again, when you're on the road, you can't be sitting there texting. Please don't text and drive, everybody. You can just talk to Aiden directly. We then moved on to document summaries and analysis. So you can, I mentioned this earlier, but Aiden's multimodal. So you can actually add documents to your Real Report, upload them. Aiden will provide you full summaries of those documents. That's great for, really heavy-handed docs like seller's disclosures, inspection reports, condo documents, HOA, meeting minutes, whatever you have, these, really lengthy, tedious, full of legalese documents. We obviously all understand that, if you miss something critical in there, like a special assessment in a condo document, that could put you in a lot of hot water. So Aiden has the ability to take in those documents, summarize them for you, and then you can continue to talk to Aiden, ask them different questions. What's the PEP policy? Or elaborate on what I could do to the roof because you said that, the condition of it wasn't great. So that was our next step. We then move to our inspection estimator. What Aiden does with that is when you upload an inspection report, Aiden will not only summarize that document and allow you to ask questions about it, but it will actually parse out all of the recommended projects based on that inspection. It'll put them together in a list, tell you what the prioritization of them is. Then you can go in, edit that list yourself, and then go get a costed estimate based on local parts, materials, labor, all of that costed contractor level in under 30 seconds. So great for budgeting and great for negotiations when you're in that part of the process. And finally, we just rolled out research mode. So what exactly is research mode? In effect, research mode is just a more robust version of the sort of paradigm that we have with the property advisor, where you can ask questions and get answers. Now we take that a step further. What Aiden research mode does is it not only combines the data set that's in real reports, but it also has the ability to go out into the web and crawl for information there. That can help you with a lot of different things. And I'm not going to list all of these out, but there are a lot of use cases for research mode that are quite compelling. One that I like to think about, and I think it's worth everybody hearing, is the reload, for instance. Let's say you've got a client who's moving from Minneapolis to New York. If they have a property that they're interested in New York, maybe they're looking in Brooklyn, you've got that property up. The reality is Aiden in that real report will have access to whatever information is in there about the property. But if you're looking at a real report for a property in Brooklyn, it's not going to have information about Minneapolis in it. So when you talk to Aiden, it's not going to really be able to access or have an understanding of, potentially what's the lifestyle and amenity assessment between those two markets. With research mode, that all changes, because now Aiden can go look out on the web and do analysis and research on those two markets, collate that information to you. It is always leaning on our corpus of data as its sort of source of truth up front, but then it's pulling in other data and research and other resources to supplement that. Now, some important things to note about research mode. We've taken so much care and consideration to make sure that the data that we bring in as part of real reports has been thoroughly vetted, gone through all of our processes, and it's part of our whole system where we're checking redundancy for consensus, et cetera. Of course, if Aiden's able to go out onto the web, that presents something that's not entirely within our control, because the internet is vast and there's a lot of information out there. We have, of course, just upfront done a lot of curating to make sure that we do vet for sites that have high SEO rankings and that are not nefarious in any way. So you're not pulling in just like garbage information or anything like that. But some other things to take note of. We will show you a full list of source citations. So anything that Aiden goes and grabs that has come from the internet, you will have a full list of all of those sources. You can see it here on screen when we're looking at the little GIF here, and I'll show you in the product in a second. You can click on any of those sources to go look at the primary source itself, see where that information comes from, see where it actually picked up that piece of data or information that it actually brought into the report. The next thing is we'll also show you a logic trail. This one can be a bit disorienting for those of you who haven't dug into AI too much, but the AI will actually show you its thought process, step by step, of how it arrived at whatever information or answer it provided you for a question. Again, it's disorienting insofar as it's really the AI talking to itself and writing down what it thought about to get you to that answer. It's just sort of a weird fourth wall breaking kind of moment. But we think it's important for you to be able to understand what was the logic path for it to actually get there, because we want you to have that just from a transparency sake, but you may be able to identify something in there that's still, incorrect or erroneous. So we want you to be able to see that explicitly. There's, of course, an opt-in before you use this. Disclaimers are a big part of our product. We want to make sure that you and your clients and anybody you're working with real reports is covered and, feels like all of those boxes have been checked. So before you use research mode for the first time, there is something that you need to read through just so you can understand the implications of this new model and everything and sort of how it works. And then finally, we did make the decision that research mode is only available for you, the owners of the reports. If you share a real report with a client and they're using Aiden, they do not have access to research mode. We really want to use Aiden as a way for you to get a bunch of insights of what your client's asking about, but we want that to be sort of in a box. We don't want them to be able to interact with Aiden and have it go sort of be let loose on the internet. So their experience of Aiden will always just be the property advisor model, where it's just looking at the data and the reports. And again, when you're using real reports, if you're in a buyer or seller tier, those are our premium tiers of the reports, you can actually turn on that lead gen piece, which will show you all of the insights. Anytime you share your report, what people are asking Aiden directly, you can see all of those questions, and it's a feed in your dashboard that you can actually see. So let me quickly, before we get to questions, just jump back over to the real report itself. So I did pull this one up earlier. I'm going to close the map here just so you can get a bit clearer visibility on what Aiden looks like. But as you can see, if I flip over to property advisor mode, let me actually just pull up a new instance of this. Give me 1 second here. I want to be sensitive of time. We've got about 6 more minutes. So you can see here on Aiden, we've got this property advisor button. When I click that, if I want to get to research mode, it's as simple as clicking research mode. Now I'm in the research mode version. You can see the interface is exactly the same. Basically, we've just given Aiden different directives of how to look for information and where to go for it. But you need to be on research mode to actually access that capability and have it go look across the web for information. So it's really as simple as that to switch between them. And just to show you, I did mention this earlier. I think I mentioned Minneapolis and New York, but for the case of this one, because I was looking at a San Francisco property, I said, give me a comparative analysis of the lifestyle in San Francisco versus Minneapolis. This is something that could be very relevant if I'm working in the reload department or working with a client, that's moving between locations. So I'm not going to bore you all by reading the response. Generally, research mode responses are much more robust than property advisor. Property advisor, we want to get you something really snappy and quick. Research mode can take, maybe 10 to 20 seconds, depending on sort of what level of sophistication and analysis needs to go into it. But generally, you will get a much more robust answer. So without reading this verbatim, you can see Aiden sort of broke this out into, the different kinds of categories that it thought were relevant. So it's sort of this top header, it's talking about cost of living. It's going through housing and overall expenses, making comparisons between those two markets. Of course, naturally, it's talking about the climate. I grew up in Minneapolis and I lived in San Francisco. I can tell you the vibes are very different when it comes to the weather throughout the year. And then it's also going into different things like culture and lifestyle and sort of giving you that job market and economy. So a lot of really, really good information. And I know this only took about 5 seconds to generate. And just so you can see, when I click this sources tab right here, now I can scroll through and I can see all of the different sources that it brought in to actually get there. So just at a glance, I can see, okay, all of these are coming from, this website or that. I can click on any of them. It'll bring me to the resource for that. You can see it brought me to apartments.com, where it did its own analysis of Minneapolis versus San Francisco. So all of that stuff is highly relevant and easy to understand. And then this is that weird thing where it's actually showing me what it did. So I can click this logic path button, and it's saying, okay, initiating research on cities. That was the first thing that it did. And again, I'm not going to read all of this, but it said, okay, I'm starting to gather data. My initial approach is to perform a deep dive into Google, meticulously comparing San Francisco and Minneapolis across a variety of lifestyle factors. I'll then zero in on the cost of living data, as that is a critical factor in the comparison. This research phase is crucial for developing a solid understanding of those cities. Then it went to analyzing lifestyle comparisons, and it provides me more information of what it was thinking about when it generated that step of the response. All of this is just, again, to give you insight to how the AI thinks and just provide you with that sort of transparency, because I think it's, number one, very interesting to see that. And number two, it's just good to have that sort of audit trail for yourself when you're looking at this information above, checking out those sources. So that's really it. Again, there are a lot of different use cases for this. I like the reload example just because it's so clear that a real report's not going to have information on, markets halfway across the country, because generally every real report is specific to that property parcel and, immediate surrounding area. So there's a lot more you can do in here. I'm excited to hear what you all decide to do with it. But in terms of actually going out and doing this, you just need to go into your real reports account and click on the model. Again, when you open a report, it'll be set to property advisor mode by default. If you want to switch over, you just click research mode, ask your question, give it a couple of seconds, and it'll do its thing. All right. I know that was a fair amount of information, but hopefully also concise enough. It's a pretty easy tool to use. So again, I'm just excited to hear all the different ways that you are all out there in the field using it. I did want to just take a quick look at my questions here. We had one from, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing this, Grizel, saying, so we upload the home inspection report. Yes, I think that was in reference to the home inspection slide that I presented earlier. One of the use cases for Aiden for the inspection estimator. Yes, you do need to upload your own home inspection report. We don't have access to those documents. So if you want to do the sort of costed estimate for parts, materials, laborers, things like that for any type of project, you need to upload that inspection report yourself. Mary, thank you. Said very useful. Sharon, how does the research mode become available? Again, you just need to have, you need to either be receiving real reports as a member benefit through your MLS or brokerage, or go get a subscription if you're just sort of independent user. And then when you have Aiden in a report, you just need to switch between property advisor mode and research mode. Aiden research mode is only available in the buyer and seller tiers. So it's those upgraded premium reports that have access to that. That's partially because there are costs associated with using these large models that we as a business have to incur, but more specifically, it's because the snapshot report has the least amount of data that we offer across our tiers, and we want you to be able to use research mode in tandem with a much larger set of data for that specific property. All right, I think that's it. We just hit time here. If any of you do have follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I will drop my contact here in the chat, Zach@realreports.ai. I'm always happy to answer any questions offline. Please reach out, shoot me a note. Again, there's a lot here, but just wanted to give everybody a quick primer of what's going on with research mode. We got a lot more coming up with Aiden coming soon. So we're always building over here. If you have suggestions, if you want to see things, improved in any way, please don't be shy. We have thick skin. We know that there's always more that we can be doing in the product. So always happy to hear from you if you have ideas and suggestions. All right. Thank you all so much for joining today. Have a great rest of your week. Cheers.